Hey Brian, thanks for jumping on and chatting with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Steve. Looking forward to the discussion today.
Let's just jump right in. So tell me about SBIR Advisors and what y'all do and what you do there.
Sure. Yeah, so SBIR Advisors we're a team of about 55 folks, former DoD contracting and acquisition professionals who've helped secure over 750 million in funding for small businesses. We're founded by our CEO, Samuel Rain. He's a 2013 Air Force Academy grad. He really saw the need to accelerate the delivery of technology to the warfighter and using unique acquisition pathways. And so SBIR is a program that allows us to do that. It's Small Business Innovation Research. It's actually a program been around since the 80s, but a handful of years ago, the Air Force started leveraging it in a little bit different way where they allow companies to propose technology that they believe can solve a defense need instead of waiting for the Air Force to ask for something. And so we really have built structure and a process where we can help small businesses creating really novel, unique, impactful technology for the commercial world, bring those solutions over and be leveraged by our nation for defense.
How cool. I'm always amazed at how cool our customers are and their businesses and what they do and how important it is. So what an amazing business. Tell me what you do there.
Yeah, so I'm the CTO at SBIR Advisors. I've been in tech since the late 90s, early 2000s, worked for a company some of you may remember, Earthlink, a telecom provider. Actually ran a large operation supporting about 500 BlackBerry enterprise servers across North America. And those things broke all the time. And I said, you know, it would be a good idea. I should start a consulting company and fix these broken BlackBerry servers. And so in 2003, I actually acquired a small IT company in San Antonio, Texas, did exactly that, worked with a lot of hospitals and medical offices because doctors were big consumers of BlackBerries back in those years. And eventually matured that practice, became big partners with Microsoft. We were gold Microsoft partners. We were a 4-time Microsoft Community Connection Partner of the Year for our overall community involvement and really driving adoption on a lot of their cloud platforms in the early years. Ended up being a tier one cloud service provider with Microsoft and then chose to sell that company in 2017. Through some just different consulting engagements I was working on, really found a passion for working with startups, earlier stage companies, and helping them bring those products to market. And in doing that is actually how I met Sam and found out about the Small Business Innovation Research Program and how companies could leverage that to get non dilutive government research and development dollars to further their products and bring those to market, both on the defense side as well as bring those adaptations back to the commercial markets. And I've been doing that ever since. So for the past, 6+ years, and actually started out as a client of Sam and SBIR Advisors. Worked with them for 5 years. Won a lot of business with them, helping the government really modernize how they were looking at cybersecurity when they were building new products and new applications. So how fast we could accelerate the time from them writing code to it being approved and deployed onto a production system. Made a lot of progress in that space, and then came on board. So as their CTO, I navigate a few internal projects, but really our tech stack is mostly built on SaaS products and capabilities. Copper's a great example of that. And so there's not a lot of internal IT to maintain and manage. So most of my time spent on partnerships, which is really working with our customers and then channel partners who could you leverage those technologies on behalf of their customers. We run some accelerator programs where some companies like to have others partner with them to build solutions together. And so helping match make and bring those two together is a big part of what I do. And then talking to new companies who have interest in what SBIR is and how they might be able to leverage it, which is probably my favorite part of the job is getting to meet these really novel, cool owners who are developing new solutions that they're bringing to market and really be able to see those in those early stages and then watch them as they mature and grow those technologies.
I bet that is so fun to see these hungry young businesses trying to bring their innovative products to market and then being able to jump in and help. That seems like a really amazing job for sure. Speaking
Hard to
of,
call it a job sometimes.
yeah, right, you do what you love and it's not a job. So speaking of these customers, how do you bring on new customers? Like how do you get new customers?
Yeah, it's actually really interesting, right? I've been in business for well over 20 years, and having run my own company and been back in those days, using Yellow Pages, right, as a reasonable way of connecting with potential new customers. They were still looking at printed phone catalogs, right? Then kind of seeing that transition to where web and social media take the forefront. Been interesting from my perspective. And even throughout all those years, inbound is certainly a portion of how you develop those relationships, but I've always seen that there was a necessity to have some amount of outbound. It's really interesting here, though, is that Sam and team have built such a robust company that's driven value for so many companies. I mean, we've worked with over 400 companies since since it was founded in 2020, and we've won over 750 million in funding for those companies. That creates a really large network of referrals in multi-part, right? One, from these clients who have had great success and who refer their friends and colleagues, other founders to us, but also venture capital, because of the number of groups that look at this program as a way to vet new companies that they might be interested in investing in, or even investing in them at the right time to take advantage of some of the matching programs that exist, where they can extend some of these research and development efforts by actually doing a VC raise and getting some additional R&D dollars from the government. And so those venture capital groups end up being a good source of referrals for us, where we work with them, we help bolster their portfolio, and in turn receive clients as well. And then actually, just the brand has built a lot of reputation in the market for being one of the leading providers of these services. And so we really today predominantly survive and live off of inbound. It's referrals, leads that come to us. Obviously, we're out in the community. We speak at different events or record podcasts, and that helps get the word out as well. But we really do live by referral and inbound. It's very fortunate in that regard.
Yeah, you are. There's not a lot of businesses that are strictly inbound, but it sounds like you've put in the work to get to a place where you've built partnerships with VCs and others to get your brand out there so that inbound can run your business. So that congratulations. That's a not many businesses get to that point for sure. What about, so tell me how does copper fit in to your business and how you work with your customers and potential customers?
Sure. So there's some really cool features that we take advantage of. And so when I talk about, our kind of client acquisition process is predominantly inbound, there's still an element of, we ultimately do have target companies who we'd love to work with. And so it makes sense in those scenarios to reach out to them through our networks or directly to them, and to try to engage, let them recognize the value of what we do, especially when we think of some of the partnership accelerators that we provide. That becomes even more so important, is informing them about the offering. And so on the consultant side, though, once we are working with the client, one of the things that we do is we actually take the client's technology and understand the use case that they're solving, the defense need that they're solving. Ultimately, we need to connect them with the right stakeholders on the government side who could leverage the benefits that this technology will bring. And so a lot of what we're doing is matchmaking from our clients, these commercial companies who are startups and at various stages, and actually helping connect or matchmake them with the right government stakeholders. And so a lot of our leveraging of copper is around a lot of those communications and interactions, right? And so how can I, track communications we've had with different groups so that different consultants can see others' interactions with those people? Are they the right contacts for these types of solutions or capabilities? So one is just kind of general awareness of the team, typical contact kind of account management, just so that we're all on the same page and have insight into what each other's doing with those accounts or those contacts. But then another portion of it that's become really helpful is being able to leverage some of the follow-up capabilities via things like email automation, right? Where, as we know, people get busy, they don't see messages, they don't see reminders or follow-ups, right? And so being able to go in there and set up some type of cadence or rhythm to where I'm touching them at some point, at some interval, in a more automated fashion becomes very helpful, just to kind of stay in touch and stay in communication, but more personalized, where I'm actually directing that message to those individuals based on what they're looking for. That's driven a lot of value for us. We also do end up working with large lists of potentials, right? I need to identify a large list of potential people that may fit this client technology, but we need to have conversations to see, how open they are to that. And again, being able to leverage all the features of being able to import bulk leads, being able to match that with what their LinkedIn activity is and what they're doing on LinkedIn, even leveraging kind of the integration between LinkedIn and Copper to be able to, on LinkedIn, view that person's contact information and the interactions we've had. So that again, as I'm going out and reaching out to people, I'm not doing that blindly. I'm doing that in an aware way where it shows that I've done my research. I've checked to see who else on the team they've worked with. And so if I reach out, I may say, hey, I see you just talked with someone else in my organization, got a similar type solution that we think you might be interested in, but just to have that context. And I think that's a lot of where we've found a lot of the value in leveraging the platform.
Oh, it makes a lot of sense. I think you want to look good in front of these potential and existing customers and making sure that you know what conversations have been had or what their activities like on LinkedIn or they changed a job title or I don't know, whatever it might be, so that you can make sure your message is personal. I love that. What's your experience with CRM and why did you ultimately choose Copper for SBIR Advisors?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been using CRMs for quite a few years since the days of Act, even right, going back to running those systems on our local machines. And I've always been a big fan because I think they provide the right structure you need to properly kind of document and keep track of all of the activities that you have going on. And so I've used a number of different platforms over the years. I think when you think of our workflow, we're not using CRM in what I would say is like a traditional way when you think of using it for common sales and marketing activities. Like, for example, we don't track opportunities. For us, this is really about contact engagement. And so my focus point and our focal point was really around how can we have a robust contact management platform that has some of these integrations and connections to the other tools that we use that can provide some amount of workflow, some amount of automation to make us more efficient in what we're doing. But ultimately, a lot of my work is really just around records themselves, like the accounts, the contacts, tracking those activities that are taking place there. And I thought Copper is really nice in that it's a very intuitive platform that I can quickly go in, customize as needed, but be able to consume and doing things like inline edits on large sets of contact information or large groups of people within the platform without having to edit individual records. Those little things start to make a big difference when the majority of our work is focused around that. And that was a big driver to it, us. We also like working with the Copper team and that they've been really good about, working with Perry, like getting feedback, right, from us on, what features or enhancements could we leverage, or if we have a support question, just overall responsiveness, getting those answered quickly. Uptime of the platform's been great, so that we got access to the system when we need it. And I think those are a lot of the reasons is more of that kind of easy, intuitive system to use when we're not looking at going and deploying extremely massively complex workflows. That ease of use is really important for our consultants because they don't have a history of using CRMs. Most of them, they come from government, right? And so they didn't use a CRM the way industry does. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense where, if you don't have experience with CRM, you need something intuitive and easy and simple to understand. And we've really fought to make sure that is the case with Copper, to make sure it's simple and whether or not you have CRM experience or not, you can get up and running quickly. Do you have a favorite, I don't know, do you have a favorite feature or something that's your favorite thing about using Copper?
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of do it. So I've used lots of big, I won't name their name, CRMs before, and um, they have a lot of features. They're also not easy to configure and set up right. And one of the things that I've really liked is how Copper approaches workflows and automations. I think that it's a very intuitive system that makes sense and allows you to execute the tasks that you need to. Again, a lot of the inline editing, I think, is really very user friendly, and it doesn't take away from the fact that you provide a very robust system that offers all of the integrations that I need, regardless of how I need to connect with them. It's really for us is about that like nice user interface, quickly edit, being able to share lists, create lists, promote those leads ultimately to contacts. We've got the history with them, that whole workflow and that ability to even create workflows or automations around those different steps has been one of the big things that I think I get most excited about when I use it.
I love it. It's so funny to think about all the massive features that come with CRM, and inline editing doesn't necessarily fall under this big complex feature, but man, it makes a difference when you can just quickly go in and edit and customize and do things on the fly. So yeah, I love that. It's cool.
And we still use integrations with other systems, and I think that's a big part of it is still being able to tie in some of those third-party data sources, like I mentioned, like a LinkedIn or something when I'm doing my outreach or prospecting or looking at someone who else in the company has relationships. We may have something like a sales navigator, but then if that person isn't interacting with them on LinkedIn and they're only interacting them with via email, I may not see that. So just having that centralized system to really capture those interactions just makes us look more knowledgeable when we're interfacing with those contacts, right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Are there any trends that you've noticed in terms of client expectations? Clients or potential customers, are they expecting different things from you? And do you see any trends that you're adapting? Uh,
Yeah. I mean, so in our in our business, we help them receive these government contracts, right? These government R&D contract projects. And so for a lot of them is around how can we drive more engagement for them? And like that always is the big ask for customers is how can we drive more engagement? And I think the ability for us to leverage all of those resources being, contacts, LinkedIn, in an efficient and somewhat automated fashion allows us to keep all those records in sync and allows us to do more output, more outreach that ultimately leads to more of those customer interactions because that's ultimately what they're driving towards. And so I think that's been one of the biggest drivers is being able to, again, where can I find more time to do outreach and engagement with government? And how can I automate things that are tasks that I need to happen, but I don't necessarily want the consultant spending a lot of time on. I think that becomes that kind of driver for us is how do we get more engagement? Because that's what we're being asked to do.
yeah, I like that. One of the principles we have at Copper is we want to be a system of engagement, not just a system of record, right? I think a lot of CRMs can just be a database where you look up information. But one of our principles is that we really need to layer on engagement on top of the database. So you know when to engage, who to engage with, how to best engage with them, those type of things. And so I'm glad to hear that's resonating with you all. Do you have plans to expand Copper this next year? Are there things that you want to do more of or expand into when it comes to your use of and your team's use of Copper?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I certainly think there's some things on the horizon that we could look at implementing that we've talked with Perry about before, which is really around extending out and leveraging some of the features that we already have today, right? I mentioned earlier, like we don't do opportunity tracking today. That's still handled we don't really track opportunities in the traditional sense because of what we do, but we do track how many proposals a client submitted, those types of things, right? And so, starting to create maybe alternate workflows there instead of having more static records sitting outside of the interaction layer so I could have all of my interactions as well as all of that data in a centralized place. Probably same kind of approach for outbound, right? Is to start as the team continues to grow and we build more muscle around new client acquisition in that outbound motion, then does that in turn present some opportunities to leverage more of those copper features around things like opportunity tracking, pipeline management, understanding where that is for a given person in a certain region. I think those are the big potential areas of interest, and then just to continue to have the team leverage it from the engagement side today, leveraging the workflow automations to be able to drive that in the most efficient way possible, and then being able to see all of that engagement across the team, continuing to build upon that with some of those other workflows and features, like I said, like pipeline and opportunities.
Well, we're excited to get you up and running with that stuff when the time is right. I think we definitely want to make sure Copper matures with you as an organization, right? Make sure that it's simple and easy to get started, but as you develop more sophisticated needs or want to do different things, that we can grow with you and help you, you know, create those new workflows and integrations and processes and whatnot as your business gets more sophisticated.
And that's the one thing I've really appreciated in the partnership that we have with you at Copper is that y'all have been very open to receiving that feedback around like what does our workflow use case look like, and that you're bringing those features very timely to us in the sense of even a lot of the automation and workflow feature capabilities we weren't looking at them prior to about the time that you guys had them in kind of a pre-release, right? And we were able to get involved in that process, be able to provide some feedback to the team and help, ultimately get that feature out. And now we're large users of that feature. And so I think that has been a pleasure to work with you all in that sense, where we see you actually taking feedback and implementing those features and then getting that feedback from the actual users of the platform. And so it's been a great partnership working with Copper and with Perry and the team.
Well, it means a lot that you provide feedback, right? Like we're certainly not experts in your business and how you do things, and so we need your feedback and need to react to that and make it better for you. Speaking of that, we may or may not use this question, but I always like to ask it anyway. If you could wave a magic wand and have Copper do one thing that it doesn't do today, is there something that you'd want it to do?
I think it would be really around third-party integrations. I think there are some things that we would probably pull in, some data sets we might pull in or look at extending out to via certain integrations. Today, we can leverage third-party connectors like Zapier to make a lot of that happen. And so it certainly makes sense to be able to do that. I think over time it would be more integration, specifically when we start looking at some of the marketing automation platforms that are out there and some of what we could tie into there. That might be of interest to me long term, right? Is like, what does that integration, kind of API integration landscape look like? So we aren't as reliant on Zapier.
Yeah, that makes sense. A lot of our customers would like more native integrations versus a Zapier connection for sure. Good feedback. Thank you. Well, that's all the questions I have. I wanted to keep it sort of short and sweet. And again, we really appreciate you being a customer and being willing to jump on and provide feedback and help us shape the product. And yeah, it means a lot. And super excited about your business and learning more. And what a cool business that y'all have built. And so yeah, with that, and anything else we can do for you? Anything else you need from us as, from Copper?
I think like, kind of again, going back, I feel like Copper has been a great partner with us as a consulting agency who doesn't have a traditional sales workflow that's hyper focused around pipeline and opportunity, understanding kind of the front end of what that engagement looks like, which is what we've discussed today, right? And I think that's really why I like using Copper for what we do, is because it really fits well for consultants who don't have that same traditional sales workflow, but it still provides me that sales workflow if I need to use that for some parts of my business. I think that's where I've been very impressed and really enjoyed working with Copper, because I do think it fits our business model well based on what we're doing, where a lot of the others wouldn't, and they'd be a lot of hassle to configure to make them do what we need to.
I love that. I can't tell you how many of our customers say something similar where they're like, we don't do sales in a traditional way, or our business is pretty unique in how we interact with customers. And, we've kind of taken that and run with it to make sure that we can be flexible and adapt to, consulting needs and agencies needs and different professional service type businesses, because you all do things very different. You're not just like put in 1,000 leads to get 10 deals out the other side, right? It's much more relationship driven and referral driven and engagement driven, like you mentioned so many times. And so I'm so glad to hear that Copper is able to kind of flex to your needs.
Yeah. No, keep up the great work. We love partnering with y'all.
Well, thanks. We'll get you going on it. We got a good roadmap of stuff coming this year. And as you have needs, please don't hesitate to reach out. If I can be helpful in any way, please reach out. And yeah, Brian, really, really appreciate the time, and best of luck in 2025 with SBIR Advisors.
Appreciate it, Steve. Appreciate you having me on today. Glad we were able to have this discussion. Keep up all the great work at Copper. Can't wait to see what y'all do next.